Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
This is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Goodcher.
Chapter 56 is titled Something Wrong. And you know what? Something is wrong with this book.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's all the typos.
It's all the fucking typos! Sorry we talked for like 20 minutes about the typos in the last episode, but...
We had a lot of feelings.
They're weighing on me. They're a burden I'm carrying.
They're the albatross around her neck.
Yeah. We're ending the Towers of Midnight, if that was not clear. Last two chapters and the epilogue. Chapter 56 is brief. It's 2 points of view. The first is Eggs. She is camped out at the fields of Marilor. Perrin has arrived. And in this point of view, Elaine and her sort of coterie begin to arrive. Gawyn's here. Gawyn's like, Egg, I don't know about this. And Egg's like, well, too bad. And he's like, you're right. And she's like, wow, it's so great to have a man who's completely devoted to me. She says, if I'd known he was so devoted, if I'd known the depth of his devotion to me, I would have bonded him weeks ago. And I'm like, girl, actions are important as well as feelings.
Yeah.
Like, there's something incredibly toxic in a way to this, like, romanticized water bond, specifically where romance is involved, you know? Where it's like, okay, we can overlook bad actions and bad behaviors simply because we know that their feelings are real and important. But, like, people love each other and still hurt each other all the time.
Yes.
And they still need to be corrected or informed of the consequences of their actions.
Yeah, also, like, I feel like your feelings about another person are entirely irrelevant if you do not then engage in behaviors that are guided by the feelings that you have for a person. You can't just be like, I love a person, nothing. Like, if you're like, I want to be in any type of relationship with another human being that you love and care for, it is then like, how do I go about loving and caring for that person? Because those are verbs, not necessarily just feelings.
Yeah, so. Devotion is such a great word to describe Gawyn's feelings for Egg, in that it's a terrible word. And although Egg is a little, you know, got some girlish butterflies about it here, it's like no one who is actually the subject of someone else's devotion necessarily enjoys the experience immensely. It's an incredible amount of pressure to have someone's expectations hinge on you in that way.
Totally.
It's also very uneven and unbalanced. It's just, like, not a good, like, partnership emotion.
No way.
It's very much a pedestalizing.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, Gawyn effectively has Egg on a pedestal 100% of the time, which is an incredibly unhealthy relationship dynamic because it strips the person on the pedestal entirely of their agency and their ability to be a human being. So either, like, when they do make a mistake, as human beings are prone to do very often, it is either, like, totally ignored by the person who is devoted to them and putting them on the pedestal, which is bad for that person, or more often in Gawyn's point of view, like, when Egg makes a mistake or acts like a person with a bad attitude because she had a bad day, he's like, this is the worst. It's like life-shattering to him as opposed to being like, my partner might need a snack.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, neither Gawyn nor Egg will really live to understand the consequences of Gawyn being devoted to Egg, because in reality, Gawyn's fatal flaw is that he is devoted to himself and the ideas of himself as a chivalric knight in service to a lady.
Yes.
And that will be his undoing. Gawyn still has the terangrial rings that he stole around his neck, and Egg's like, I gotta ask him about those. And it's like, sounds like she already asked him about it, and he evaded the question, and it's like, girl, it's not setting your alarm bells ringing.
Being like, why does my partner have rings around his neck that you won't tell me about?
Yeah, they look like some sort of weird trophy, which they are.
He'd be like, he's wearing teeth on his freaking necklace.
It's like a puka shell necklace.
Yeah. Gawyn would wear a
but
puka
not
shell
as bad.
necklace. Gawyn would dress like Logan Eccles from the hit show Veronica Mars.
Gawyn is such a Logan Eccles. In that I hate Logan Eccles.
Yeah, Logan is a piece of shit.
We are also told that here on the fields of Marilor, of course, there are many countries' armies, but now there are just also people showing up, which calls back to the beginning of the Gathering Storm and a few other, like, asides that we have been, where people are just like, we're going. I'm glad they all got the memo, seemingly, about where to gather.
Yeah.
But I guess this is a world where news reaches people and they just believe it, as with Gawyn and his dead mother. Oh, wait, she's not dead. He's so happy.
Don't you think Gawyn should feel embarrassed about the way he's behaved over the past 10 books?
Yeah.
Upon knowing that his mother's not actually dead?
Yeah. I would be like, oh my god.
I would be like, I'm going to throw myself in a vat of acid. I have been the most insufferable piece of shit, and my mother's not even dead.
That would require Gawyn to have an ounce of self-awareness.
Yeah. Like, he's just thrilled. He, like, runs across.
Yeah. We're meant to be like, wow, how touching. But I'm like, this is so humiliating.
This is so humiliating for you.
Everyone he met after that original random merchant told him that she was probably alive.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, everyone told him that Rand didn't kill her, so whatever.
He just is like, it wasn't embarrassing for me to form an entire psychosexual complex with the Dragon Reborn over the fact that someone in a bush told me he killed my mom.
It is incredibly funny that Morgoth has probably been back with Elaine for minimum a few days. And Elaine, who has traveling and knows where her brother is, wasn't like,
do you want to talk to Gawyn?
Hey, so guess what, bro? Mom's not dead.
Yeah.
Like, the family dynamics here
so annoying.
Are insane. Anyway, Gawyn is reunited with Mommy Dearest. And then we switch to Andrel, who's good at everything. And he is with his besties. And they're all like, what the fuck? Gateways aren't working. And they're like, what the hell are we gonna do? And Andrel's like, I think we just gotta, like, bunker down. You know, it's no longer worthwhile to pretend like there isn't some massive division in the Black Tower. We now have to take steps to defend ourselves. Tibble just leaped over Ed, so...
8 Lords of Leaping.
One of their friends, you know, just some random guy, was taken to one of Mazrim Tem's special classes, and now has come back, and they're like, well... something's off about her. She's slipping. They're like, that's not right. Whatever's in there, that's the devil.
Yeah. That is Rosemary's Baby.
We don't know what's going on, but it ain't right.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like, dun, something's happening. Andrel then goes to Pevara's hut. Welcome to Pevara's hut. Plaque.
She's got a plaque. She's got a doormat.
Hello, welcome to my hut.
Yeah.
He goes to Pevara's hut because I guess Pevara had a little freak out trying to leave the Black Tower on foot the other day, and obviously wasn't successful. Andrel shows up and is like, hey lady, hey girly.
Hey girly.
She's like, what the fuck do you want? And he's like, well, I everything's awful and bad. We need help. And she's like, okay.
Come in.
Yeah. And thus commences a relationship, you know?
Yeah, that's how it happens in the Wheel of Time.
That's how a man and a woman
In a hut together.
meet. It doesn't matter if they're in a hut. They could be
They could be in a hut. They could be not in a hut.
they could be on the same page in a
Yeah.
Robert Jordan book, and they will fall in love.
Yeah.
Next chapter, the infamous Moiraine and Tom.
Blah. Blah. Matt is the only person. This is the one time Matt's reaction under Brandon Sanderson has been relatable and correct. When he's like, hey, what?
Hey, what the fuck? You guys haven't even talked to each other.
Yeah. And there's like, you weren't paying attention. We were fucking the whole time.
Yeah,
Or
which
whatever.
is very clearly like meant to be an authorial response to readers for whom this
Yeah.
would come out of nowhere. Like, I don't recall anyone ever being like, yeah, Tom and Moiraine, OTP.
Yeah.
Or even like they have a hint of a relationship or chemistry of any kind.
I barely remember them speaking to each other.
They had, as I recall, a single one-on-one scene in The Shadow Rising. And in that, it seemed like they had a sort of platonic understanding with one another. Of like, we are both people who are trying to keep Rand alive.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of it.
Apparently that's enough to deem you married.
Yeah. So, no, Robert and Brandon, it's not that we didn't see anything. You didn't write it.
It wasn't there.
It wasn't there. And you can't, have your fingers crossed behind your back. There's no takesy backsies.
I promise they were flirting.
They were so in love. You
Yeah.
just didn't notice. Because you're stupid.
Because you are dumb. You didn't notice that off screen I was having characters fall in love with one another, is how this reads. And it's like, of course I didn't notice that.
I barely notice when characters on screen fall in love with each other because you guys don't know how to write romance.
Yeah.
It's the most painful thing about this series.
Yeah.
People are being like, we're in love. And I'm like, bitch, where?
Yeah.
Show me. Love is a verb. And all you guys do is
All you guys do is devote to each other.
Bah.
You just have
You're
feelings.
even bad at that.
Yeah, you can't even have feelings in a normal way.
Yeah, you guys all suck.
You can't just be like, I love this person and I want to make their life better. It has to be like, I'll kill myself if Egg doesn't look at me. And you're like, hey, chill out.
Anyway, the trio are having this little regroup afterward, Moiraine's still naked, don't worry about it. You would think they should have known that they're in a Robert Jordan book and brought a dress for her, because
They're like, women be
women
naked.
are always naked. Moiraine tells them a little bit about what transpired in the tower, in that she and Lanfear went through the doorway, so the rules did apply to them, in that they were able to make bargains, ask for things. But she says there was no way out after that, which we now know from Matt, who got out via the spear, not the doorway, is not necessarily true.
Yeah.
So that's just a sort of plot hole. Like, Moiraine keeps assuring us, like, there was no way for me to save myself. I went through that thing in Ruidaean, so I got to see all of my little iterations of my future, so I know that no way would I was always going to be stuck here. And it's like, okay, well then how come Matt, Mr. Fail Upward, walked in and was like, by the way, I want to leave. And they were like, okay.
Here's the front keys.
Here's a back door.
Yeah.
Bye. You tell me
Yeah.
there's only one back door key?
They're like, we only made one. It's expensive these days at Home Depot to print a chandelier.
We have to get a locksmith to come all the way out here.
It's just like a whole thing.
They have to do the little triangle and wiggle on the Tower of Ghenjei.
Which is just so embarrassing for locksmiths.
And the wolves keep telling them to go away. God, I want to be the locksmith who goes to the Tower of Ghenjei.
It's a pretty funny story concept. You, a locksmith, get called to the home of eldritch horrors.
Yeah, it's like the mailman in Good Omens who has to deliver all the weapons to the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
It's like, I'm just trying to get my job done.
I'm just here,
Just a blue-collar
a
worker.
fucking Amazon delivery driver.
Yeah.
Trying to do my best. So Moiraine was trapped there and was just getting sucked on. Terrible way to face that. Was just getting drained vampirically.
Yeah.
Her power, her ability to channel. So, much like Swan, after being stilled, Moiraine is no longer a powerful channeler, but she has a special angreal that the Finn gave her as part of her bargain that now makes her even stronger than before. So don't worry about it.
And if you're wondering, well, that seems like a needlessly complex plot, you're right. It's stupid.
It is, yeah.
She could have just been like, Moiraine was already pretty powerful. She doesn't need to be more powerful. And if she does, she could just have had the magic bracelet and not lost her. Whatever. We just always have to find some way to humiliate women. Being naked is no longer enough.
Yeah, notably Matt says of Moiraine, like, after she sasses him a little bit or something, he's like, yes, this was the same Moiraine, humbled, cast down. That made her seem stronger to him for some reason. Which is the classic Robert Jordan model of femininity. Women need to be subdued, humbled, in order to reach the peak of their character development.
Yep.
So here we see it happening with Moiraine. Moiraine's character development was never done when she died in Fires of Heaven because, fuck it, she left on a really high note. She took out Lanfear in defiance of Rand Pussy Althor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't kill a lady. And Moiraine was like, I can, watch me, bitch.
I will do it right now.
Yeah, you suck.
In front of you and God.
And that was really cool of her and iconic and powerful, but we have to bring her back, but less powerful. And also, the thing she was trying to do didn't actually work. Lanfear's still out there. So it was all useless.
All pointless.
It was incredibly important for Moiraine to quote-unquote die, in terms of, much as I hate to say it, Rand's character development. Moiraine was the mentor figure. Mentors, typically in a hero's journey type narrative, have to die in order for the hero to step up. We've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can mess with that sort of archetype, but you would be doing so in a much more thoughtful and unconventional text than these ones clearly are. So Moiraine was always going to die, but it would have been nice if it was fucking worth something.
Yeah. It's it is so incredibly unsatisfying because the one way that Wheel of Time is doing something interesting with the mentor's death is that in that moment she is not dying for the sake of saving Rand's life, like they're in some type of danger, like Gandalf in the Mines of Moria, sacrificing himself in order for the rest of the Fellowship to leave. That's a pretty common iteration of the mentor dying, is they're saving the hero in some way so the hero can continue onward. So rather than Moiraine sacrificing herself for Rand's life, she is actively choosing this quote-unquote death in order to take someone off the board, someone who is dangerous, not only in terms of Lanfear being a Forsaken, but who is dangerous to Rand and has already played, lots of mind games with him. So it's cool to see her have this moment of agency that she picks her terms to go out on and gets to do this cool thing and have this epic moment, and then it's like, okay, that was actually nothing. Like, the one cool thing you let Moiraine do is nothing because Lanfear is still alive. She still was able to do things. She's now being tortured, apparently, like every other female Forsaken, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, you didn't take Lanfear off the board, and you probably made Rand worse by giving him Cadswan. So...
And by giving him, adding to his whole complex. I don't want to put that on my Moiraine, But that is clearly the, intention of Moiraine's death was to make Rand's character development, veer in a bad direction.
Yeah.
In terms of feeling responsible for women, and then Moiraine coming back is supposed to undo that in some way.
Yeah.
Now Rand can, absolve himself of that guilt.
Yeah.
By being oh yeah, women can sometimes survive even when I think they're dead. It's such a weird...
Yeah, and it's so the only thing this accomplished was that... Sounds like... Okay, Tybalt?
Hey, I'll kill you.
Tybalt, you can't go out the front door. There's nothing out there. Lanfear sounds like also got drained by the Fin, so she got tortured, and Moiraine got tortured. And they were both suffered and were humiliated, and it's affected their ability to channel. Lanfear's...
Except not really.
Except not really. Who knows what's going on there? So all this accomplished in all this time was to make Rand go on this weird rampage and for Moiraine to suffer in order to somehow contribute to her character development and Robert Jordan's school of female character arcs. So dumb. One of the coolest things the series did, having Moiraine tackle Lanfear through a magic doorway. Completely meaningless. Mm-hmm. Matt and Tom going into the Tower of Ghenjei to save her feels needless now when she comes out and we are like, oh right, everything she did in there to do, nothing.
Yeah, imagine if Moiraine came out, like, empowered, actually empowered in some way.
Yeah.
Or was just like, I learned something, you know, via my bargain with the Fin. I actually managed to accomplish something. What if Moiraine had escaped the Fin and just been wandering around the Tower of Ghenjei for 2 years?
Yeah.
That would have at least been kind of iconic.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moiraine's just having... What if Moiraine befriended the Fin and was just sort of having a muckabout with the Fae and brought them into the last battle?
That would require women to have agency, though. Moiraine, though, is essentially a sort of Snow White corpse in this.
100% Snow White, which is that whole fairy tale, if you're not in the know, is about women having no agency and also necrophilia.
German fairy tales. What is happening? What's going on?
Why is she in a glass box? Is she dead?
Just some other bad things to hit. Moiraine offers to Tom to never channel again since he hates channeling so much. Tom has been hanging out with channelers for quite a while. He obviously had some beef with Aes Sedai early on in the series, but in his own character growth, it seems like he got over that a long time ago. So the fact that he's not just like, oh no, it's fine, channel to your heart's content and I love you anyway, but is like, no, I love you for asking, but you don't have to do that for me. This is a sacrifice for you I am willing to make. Is nuts.
You guys hear how insane that is?
Yeah,
like,
wild.
I'm gonna ask you to not do something that's important to you and also something that you're good at. I'm asking you to not do your job ever again because it makes me uncomfortable. Okay? What? It's like, oh my gosh.
Tom's like, I bet you'll want to bond me as your warder. And Moiraine's like, duh. In the Wheel of Time, that's all that counts. In heterosexual relationships. Then we get some trash disability narrative where Matt, who has lost an eye and is now concerned about, as he should be, loss of depth perception, along with, now having a blind side, he can't see on one side, is like, how am I going to fight? That's an incredibly big weakness that I have to compensate for in some way.
Yeah.
But don't worry, his magic look is just gonna cover him that way, so it's like nothing changed.
It's like nothing changed, which is bad.
Yeah.
Which is bad because your life does change when you have a disability. And that's not inherently a bad thing to have to refigure out your life.
Yeah.
So
it's the same thing with Moiraine's magic bracelet. What we're pushing forward here is this sort of like world in which these characters have magical prosthetics.
Yeah.
They've lost something but are compensating for it with some sort of magical implement, whether that is luck or a magic bracelet. But that's not how prosthetics actually work. Mm-hmm. Prosthetics still affect your life. They don't cure the disability or make it better than it was before,
Yeah.
They're just a major part of your life that you have to live with in new and adaptable ways.
Right. You're no less an amputee because you have a prosthetic. The prosthetic is just, an aid to help you get around in your life, and you're not always using it. It functions differently, obviously, than the limb that you lost or were born without. So, and that's not a bad thing. And it's. I feel like I always have a hard time articulating this to people. So feel free to jump in, but this constant idea, especially in fantasy, that you should just be able to cure or render null a disability with magic is in itself really ableist, because it's just the idea that it's this like, it just renders disability non-existent in the world, which is a form of sort of like narrative eugenics on the population, being like, I don't actually want them to be disabled because that would be inconvenient to the narrative.
Yeah. Our epilogue...
So Matt should totally beef it occasionally.
Yeah.
On the fields of battle at the last
Matt
battle.
should be running into things.
Yeah.
Because he lost an eye 48 hours ago. For the love.
No one would expect anything less. Anyway.
Or just be like, I'm not going to get into big fights now.
Yeah,
for like a while until I actually learn to compensate for this.
Yeah, and can train and...
Train with Uno, other one-eyed fighter.
Yeah, slay.
Yeah. Like, it's not like you can't be a fighter if you only have one eye. Just, you probably can't be a fighter with one eye if you lost that eye 12 minutes ago.
Yeah, 12 minutes ago. You might want to consider maybe having a bodyguard for a while if you're a general who just lost an eye.
God, can you imagine
Matt having a bodyguard? The sexual tension would be off the charts.
Matt having an Ashaman warder? Stop.
That would be sexy. Matt's like, I'm actually taking Grady.
I'm taking Grady. He's mine now.
Grady's mine now.
Bye-bye. And Grady's like, yes, and you're mine. Bonded.
Bonded.
Yeet. Okay, the epilogue bounces through a lot of points of view. Graendal is panicking because her plans failed, even though that actually happened like 400 pages ago, so weird to have it here.
Yeah.
But Shadar Haran shows up, and, drags her into hell. He's like, don't worry, Graendal, you'll suffer. And I'm like, I know she'll suffer. This is a Robert Jordan narrative. It's not like Graendal would just die. Something bad will happen to her.
No, she has to be dragged into turbo hell.
Yeah.
By the Murdrel who's licking his lips creepily.
And then returned, spat out of turbo hell so that, everyone can see how she has fallen. So she can be humbled and cast down.
That will make her more beautiful to Matt, though, in case you're wondering. That's what Matt said about Moiraine, basically.
Perrin is in the wolf dream and is like, I guess I should go look for this guy Boundless, who Hopper told me to look for. He goes and finds this wolf named Boundless, who is actually hilarious. Boundless is like, hey, doofus, remember that time you fucked up?
Yeah.
And Perrin's like, God, Boundless is the only one who remembers this. And Boundless is like, you're right, I do.
Boundless is really giving oldest sibling energy, or younger sibling energy with Perrin.
Yeah, he's like, hee, tee-hee. It's, a scene, but essentially Perrin realizes that Boundless is actually Noam, which is different than Noel. Very confusing. Who he met in The Dragon Reborn was a guy who was basically, locked up in a cage in a town.
Yeah.
Also different from Gaul.
Different guy, different cage.
Who Perrin recognized, also had a connection to the wolves, and Perrin has been haunted by the idea that, like Noam, he could just be consumed by the wolves. Just, completely lose himself, not of his own volition. But here, Noam/Boundless is being like, actually, I chose to be a wolf because my life sucked so bad.
Yeah.
And this is who I am, and I prefer to be a feral wolfman.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit confused, because Noam, I assume, did not transform into a wolf in the real world.
This was my question, too. As comes up with all sort of, virtual reality concepts, which is basically what is happening here. I'm like, are you eating, though? Is he ever going back to his, body in order to, feed it?
Is he just, scarfing down? Is he just, hunting chickens? Stealing chickens from people?
I have a lot of
raw,
questions.
like a little weirdo?
Eating the chickens raw.
Oh, yeah, he's a wolf, so... There's a lot going on in this scene that is, it's great for Perrin's development. Glad he's finally liberated from this idea that he could just involuntarily become a wolf.
Right.
It's something you have to actually desire in order to change about yourself. However, so confused about Noam's day-to-day.
Yeah.
Initially, I was like, maybe the revelation is going to be that he died, but is happier now because, wolves don't die. They persist in the world of dreams, a la
Yeah.
Hopper. And, you know, now he's in the world of dreams, and it's his afterlife, and his afterlife is sweet.
Yeah.
But maybe Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson didn't want to do that because it would look like advocating for suicide or something. I don't know. It's also just like there's some weird. I don't want to lean too hard into this, but there are some like weird parallels to being trans in this sort of like desire to change oneself.
Yeah.
The fact that Perrin kept being like, Noam, and I was like, stop dead naming him.
Stop dead naming him. His name is Boundless.
His name is Boundless.
No, it's really hard to not read a trans narrative into that. I think werewolves are inherently a very trans-coded monster. The idea of you taking on a different form, they can be, I guess, not inherently, but taking on a different form. I've seen several trans mask people online in particular being like, there's something about the werewolf transformation that like reads very true to like my experience of being on testosterone.
Sure.
Which I think is really funny and charming.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely something there, and just like, it's just a call to how important it is to be like aware of various trends in media and the way that things have been used in the past, because I highly doubt either Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson was like, this could be an interesting metaphor for being trans, dropped in at the end of the 13th book of Wheel of Time. But because there's so much in the werewolf narrative that aligns with that, and the way that Boundless's life has been presented as really terrible when living in human form. So it's just like, there's an importance. We talk about like tropes and archetypes and stuff, and that's not important only to like understand literary history and be able to make these points, but it's also important as a creator to understand that even if you are not intending to use a certain story formulation in a way, like these things do not exist in a vacuum. So
yeah, it ends up being just sort of like this tangle of metaphors that we're trying really hard to see through. You know, there's like transness, there is some stuff going on with mental illness here.
100%. Yep.
And, you know, still persisting a sort of suicide ideation. It's just very tangled, and it's like, I guess it doesn't need to matter all that much, because what matters is Perrin's relationship to wolfness here, but it's still just like, what a wild thing to throw at us on page 834 of the Towers of Midnight.
Right, and it's just like, I have a lot more questions about Boundless than I do about Perrin at this point.
About Perrin. We then get an Olver point of view as he is playing Snakes and Foxes with Talmanes. He wins Snakes and Foxes, which is meant, I suppose, to coincide with the fact that Matt escaped the Tower of Ghenjei, thereby winning. Talmanes' babysitter icon is just like reading a book and is like, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want. Play in a fire. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you're not my kid.
You're not my kid. You're not Matt's kid, so I don't know why.
I don't know why you're here.
You.
Who even are you?
So Olver commits some light mail fraud and is like, sure, I see an envelope, I open it.
It's kind of relatable.
Yeah, he's like, I've got to know, since Matt won't tell us what's the fuck's going on here.
Yeah.
He opens Varen's letter and then is like, hey, Talmanes? Hey, girly? Something's happening. Talmanes is like, well, reads the letter. It's, you know, from Varen, and it's Varen being like, hey, Matt, if you're reading this, I'm super dead. Of course, I know that you wouldn't have waited for weeks upon weeks to open this letter, because I've spent a cumulative week with you and know you so well.
Yeah, boy.
And obviously your character hasn't developed at all since the last time I saw you. So that was a smart move on my part. Hey, just so you know, there's a waygate in Camelin. Everyone's guarding it, but not really.
The Trollocs are coming.
They're at the gates. The drums.
The drums.
They are coming.
They're coming.
They are coming. She's like, you gotta go rescue Camelin. Talmanes is then like, pokes his head out and is like, fuck! The city's on fire!
Yeah.
We gotta get those cannons. And the civilians, I guess, but
And the
cannons,
civilians, but most importantly, the cannons.
Yeah.
Talmanes might We just want to fire the cannons.
Cannon's like, I don't give a fuck about peasants, the English peasants. I'm
Well,
French.
he's French,
Yeah.
so
He's like,
yeah.
"Get
It's like
out."
the English peasants, actually, I hope they do get hit by the cannons.
Yeah.
That's an added bonus for me.
This is obviously just meant to be like a cliffhanger, you know, for last book. And also supposed to be like, Camelin, one of our beloved settings, is in danger. What are we gonna do? The last battle is kicking off in this clever way in that we're getting attacked from the inside. Except it kind of falls flat for me because it's like, yeah, we covered the way gates. That particular way gate was covered. Varen herself is like, it's sealed up. It's guarded. We good. Oh wait, we're not.
Yeah, and it's just like this unraveling of plots we spent a lot of time on. It's like, why did we spend so much time on these waygates across multiple books, across multiple characters, for it to just not matter? And like, we aren't given a good reason for why it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's not like Rand or Loyal or someone like failed in
Yeah.
some way.
Messed
the way
up.
Matt, quote unquote, failed, or more accurately, Varen failed.
Yeah.
Here. Like, that is fine. But yeah, it's not like someone messed up or like there was some actual oversight that needs to be accounted for. This is just kind of like a narrative twist for no reason.
Yeah.
We're just like, well, I need to drop an army into Camelin to threaten some people. And
You
it's like, you
don't.
can't just do that.
Yeah. And if you needed
needs to make sense.
Yeah, it should have been someone using traveling,
Yeah,
the
or
teleportation device we invented.
maybe it'll turn out that like Mazrim Tem let them in or something
that would
like
make
that.
sense.
Which makes sense, but then it should have been like foreshadowed
Yeah.
that that was a thing Mazrim Tem was
Yeah.
going to do, and someone had a chance to stop him and didn't.
And didn't. Yeah, exactly.
Plots should make sense.
Yeah, just like bare minimum literary criticism. Your plots should make sense.
But at least the cliffhanger works because our most beloved character, Talmanes, is now in danger.
That's true.
And our second most beloved character, Cannons,
Yeah.
are also
the cannons. What's gonna happen to my cannons?
My cannons! Then we get a random merchant in the Borderlands who is like, dang, it sucks to be in the Borderlands right now.
Wish my king was here.
Sure wish that anything was, that the Borderlands were protected.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And then he's like dragging himself through the dirt or whatever and is like, oh no, some bad guys. He thinks they're Murdrol, but then they turn out to be Ale wearing red veils and with glassy eyes and teeth filed into points. My first read through, I was like, what the fuck? So I will be your guide. Long time ago, we were told, just sort of tangentially, that when Ale men who can channel, or find out they can channel, they just kind of go into the Blight to, quote, fight the Dark One. So I guess, instead of just killing them, the Dark One, or whoever, was like, sweet, an army of channeling men. And we can do this little brainwash trick that Mazrim Tem is also doing in the Black Tower, a la Glassy Eyes.
Yeah.
And now we just have a bunch of channeling guys who are, it doesn't matter if they're crazy because we want them to be evil.
Okay. See, at least that was a plot that was somewhat foreshadowed.
It was foreshadowed 10 books ago, so
It doesn't
I don't
count.
love
It doesn't count much, but it does count more than the Waygate in Camelin.
yeah, it is also wild to be like, oh, by the way, here's another threat.
Yeah, like we're done. The threats have been established.
Yeah,
We're
at
done.
this point, like, I'm expecting a swarm of Trollocs. If you want to be like, oh no, if you want to have Avienda to be like, oh no, the men who got sent out into the Blight, they're here also channeling, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But to have it sort of set up here as though they're going to be like a big thing, they're not really. They're just going to be kind of part of the endless horde.
Right.
Then we get Rand having a sexy dream. His sexy dream is a lady who is actually Lanfear getting tortured. She's like, please help me. Oh my gosh, I'm being tortured. And he's like, I don't even know who you are, bitch. And she's like, you know me. And he's like, I do know you. Only one woman gets me this hard.
Yeah. And he uses Lanfear's real government name.
Moiraine.
But
She's like, I wish I was dead. Blah, 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 blah. I'm so pitiful and sad and womanly, and don't you want to rescue me? Don't you want to rescue me?
Hey, don't you want to rescue?
Hey, why aren't you rescuing me?
Why aren't you rescuing me in your sexy dream?
Why aren't you This is my sexy dream too. You rescue me.
Yeah. Moiraine's like, what if I want to be the maiden that's chained up in the tower?
What about that? Yeah, now we're throwing Lanfear into the mix too.
Again.
Rand's like, oh no, she's alive. And it's like, boy, I don't give a fuck.
I'm tired of knowing things the main characters don't know.
Yeah, it's a little annoying. Finally, we end with Lan with his now fairly sizable army. It says there's 12,000 of them, which is quite the jump from what I believe to have been like 200 at our last count. They're at Tarwin's Gap, and Lan's like, death. Only not as cool.
Way less cool than
Let's
Theoden
go
King.
fight the endless hordes. And they just charge. Then we get the little... Is it still an epigraph if it's at the end?
I think so.
Okay, well, earlier in this book, Graendal and Moiraine had a little convo, and Graendal was like, oh my gosh, the prophecies of the shadow. Mm-hmm. This says that Perrin will die.
Right.
And Moiraine was like, you bet it does, so go out and kill him. And then Perrin didn't die, and we were like, how could this possibly be? So we get the sort of like transcript of that prophecy, I guess. And the line that's about Perrin dying is, the broken wolf, the one whom death has known, shall fall and be consumed by the midnight towers. This is, as Brandon Sanderson himself confirmed, actually a reference to Hopper, who was already dead, aka the one whom death has known. And he falls because the midnight towers, remember, represent the Forsaken. So sort of in the middle of the Forsaken's machinations.
Yeah.
Tee-hee. Those Forsaken sure are dummies. Even their own prophecies are like, and you'll fail.
Yeah.
So that's Towers of Midnight.
I didn't grab out the thing, but what is our overall mood for this episode and then the book?
We didn't do it last episode.
I know,
either.
I forgot.
My mood at this episode is mad.
Me too.
Overall, the book, I guess, would be mostly mad, but also a little relieved. Because we're so close to being at the last battle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of it finally coming to
Yeah.
the big thing that we've
Some
been
threads
building
are getting
towards.
tied up, and like no matter how badly it's happening, no matter how poor the execution, it is ending.
Yeah.
Which is a huge, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's a relief. Yeehaw.
Yeah, it'll be nice when everyone is working towards the same goal. For once.
For sure.
So, for this episode, I'm also feeling mad and annoyed. Just kind of that conglomeration. For the overall book, currently pretty ambivalent. I don't know if that's one we put on there, but just kind of a lot of mad. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens, but it might just be 7 o'clock on a Thursday, so I'm feeling a little ambivalent about it.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of women getting tortured and humbled and blah 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 blah, especially near the end of this book. The timeline was all over the place, so I would honestly add confused as a primary emotion.
Yeah.
While reading this.
Mega confused.
But we did get Enlightened Rand, which was a nice shift.
That was pretty funny there for a couple chapters at the beginning.
For just a little while, it was like, God,
I wish he just kept up this
I
energy.
hate this bitch, but in a new way than I've hated this bitch.
In a way that it's like fun to watch that sort of character cause problems.
Yeah, I was like,
sort of Jenna Maroney type way.
Yeah. Okay, Ed, is it time to feed you?
Yeah, thank you everybody. Thanks for listening to this season. We're getting so close to the end, by which I mean we'll probably be reading the last battle. That's not the name of the book. We will be reading the last battle itself for a long time, but A Memory of Light for I'm sure quite a while as we try to navigate things like the last battle. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you to Glenna Mackenzie. I'm stealing Emily's show this episode. Thanks to Glenna Mackenzie for our theme song, which we love. Thanks to our patrons on Patreon. Again, check out that blooper reel if Emily didn't cut our reference to the blooper reel for the blooper reel over on Patreon. And thanks to our followers on social media.
Yeah, thanks a lot to all of you. In terms of what's coming up next, we'll be taking a break next week. You can expect the reading schedule for A Memory of Light to appear on our website sometime in the next couple of weeks. It should be pretty convoluted, so look forward to that. But then we'll be back with the prologue. How exciting. Do you have a sign off?
I do. We're dealing with an issue at work that is involving a partner who's being pretty sexist, misogynist towards women. And there are a lot of women who work on the team that this funder works with, and 2 men. And today I had to have conversations with both of those men about this. And they were both trying so hard to be, like, good about it. And they both were. It's not like they did anything inherently heinous, but they really were.
It's not like they were like, actually, you deserve
he's
to be
actually
a little humble.
right. Yeah.
You look more beautiful now that you've been humbled.
I scream. But they were both, one definitely more so than the other, the sort of like, I understand this is coming from like a cis het male privileged perspective, a lot of like that, which is like not to like make fun of the fact that it's important to use all of those identity tags when talking, but it was just like I was just like blatantly discriminated against, and it's just like a little silly to sit in this conversation with you having to like tiptoe around the fact that you are also a man. Like, I know that, so I'm not blaming you, I'm not accusing you of these things.
Yeah, at a certain point it just becomes like, okay, not me though. But he was sexist, but not me though.
Yeah. And I was like, okay.
Okay, great. Love that.
Love that.
So, wrapping up Towers of Midnight with some real world sexism, which really fits.
Really fits.
About it. Bye, guys.
Bye. We love you.